So round 3 of the Rugby Championship is now over. There's been some really big results. Now, I had to get up really early to watch these games over in the UK. I was up. First game kicked off at 6:30 a.m. over here. And if you're going to get up early, you want to be watching some good games of rugby. And luckily, we have been treated to that. Now, I know the Wallabies versus Springboks game was on before this one, but I'm going to do this one as a post-match review first, just because the game has just finished. It's a bit fresher in the mind. And then I'll do the other video after. Just make sure if you're not subscribed already, press that subscribe button now just to keep up to date with when that video comes out. So, New Zealand versus Argentina. What an incredible final scoreline. Absolutely not going the way I thought it was going to go. One of the things I'm loving about covering this series for the first time ever is I'm basically wrong about every game. I think so far we've had 6 games. I think I've called 5 incorrectly so far. So what do I know about rugby, guys? I mean, this has been a really fun championship to watch so far. So I'm looking forward to see what the rest of the championship has to offer. So Argentina coming away with a win over New Zealand. And in all honesty, I feel deserved. I feel like a deserved win. They didn't just sort of squeak past them. They really earned their keep for this game. As we do in these match reports, what we'll be doing is going through the first half, going through some of the highlights, the scores, thoughts on the game, and then we'll do the same for the second half. Make sure you guys do drop down in the comments your thoughts on the game, because there's an awful lot of big talking points to this one. So this one, a very stop-start game considering the game that we had with the Springboks one. This one, very sort of, it was high intensity, but there was certainly a lot of stoppages, knock-ons, penalties everywhere, really slowed down the game quite a lot, probably to a big advantage of Argentina, who maybe not necessarily up there in terms of the fitness of some of the other teams, but having stop-start does allow them to get into these games, and they really showed it. Now, New Zealand actually had the first opportunity to get some points on the board. Mo'unga missing the first penalty kick in the 2nd minute, not done the same by Boffelli, who scored his first penalty in the 5th minute. So Argentina actually took the lead in this game, which was really nice to see. New Zealand did come back with a superb try from Taukeaho at the back of a fantastic driving maul, which that's what you want to be seeing, especially against a team like Argentina. Being able to front up against the forwards is a big win in any game against them, to be honest. And this driving maul got over that line. From the line out, they must have driven it a good, I don't even know, 15 metres, I'd probably say. Really driven back from the forwards, got over that try line. Nice early score for them in the 11th minute, so not quite in that first 10 minutes. We know a couple of teams like to try and score that first try in the first 10 minutes. Mo'unga did miss the conversion, though, so it was 5-3. So 2 missed conversions in the first 10 minutes for Mo'unga. Could have seen them 10-3 up at this point. That probably would have been a bit of a different scoreline. Now, someone not missing kicks was Boffelli, as I mentioned before. Now, this guy, all game just getting the kicks. I mean, it's not so much you'll see it on the scoreboard in a minute, but as we get through the game, you'll just see how many kicks he does get. He did manage to push them back in the lead in the 17th minute, getting his own 3 points. So we saw that scoreboard flip back over that 5-6 now. It took a little while for this game to get going. It was past the 20 minutes, probably by the time we really started getting into it. I would actually say New Zealand were probably more on the attacking side to start off this game with. The All Blacks looked very good when just going forwards, hands on the ball. We did see a period between the sort of 20 and 30 minute marker where they were beginning to up this recycling speed, the ruck speed, the breakdown for them was working extremely well. We saw them putting the pressure on Argentina. They didn't really, take too many extra measures. They weren't just believing they were going to win. They did what they needed to do, managing to drive them back. The scramble defense from Argentina, really good, but New Zealand not taking a lot of message. They did manage to get their own 3 points, just putting them back over to that 8-6 lead by Mo'unga. And then they get to double down with this with a try from Caleb Clark, again off the back of this New Zealand attack. A lot of possession, a lot of aggressive play from them. Eventually we get to see a little break come in from Geordie Barrett, making a nice little gap through the middle, offloads it out the back to Caleb Clark. Looks like he actually might have got close to being tackled. We did see an Argentina player get a hand in towards the legs. Caleb Clark managed to stumble, gets over into the corner and scores a try. Now Mo'unga, with the hardest kick of the game, actually manages to get this one over. So I don't know what was happening in the first bit. Obviously trying to, maybe a little bit shaky, just trying to warm up into the game, but does get a great kick right from the touch line, taking New Zealand to a 15 points to 6 lead. Now at this point the scales, he still missed those 2 kicks, so it could have been 20 points to 6 at this point as we got towards the end of the first half. But they'll probably have been happy with that lead at that point. 9-point lead. Argentina looking like they were struggling a little bit just to try and keep those points going, but the way they were going to do it was through the boot of Boffelli. Now there was 2 penalties coming in just in that last 5 minutes that brought them right back into this game. The first one, New Zealand were on the counter attack, and there was a great jackal by Julian Montoya. Now He had a fantastic game in terms of that breakdown. There was a good 4-5 jackal penalties for him throughout this game. That was the first one, which Boffelli got kicked over. Brings them back in at 6 points behind now. And then again, right at the end, in a line-out penalty. One of the weirder line-out penalties I've ever seen. The Argentinian line-out, really not knowing where they were going, went to a plan B, and we saw Pablo Matera just sort of run round the outside of the line-out, got to the front, got the ball, and Lomax came in and got a tackle on him. The referee said before the line-out was thrown in. I'm not really sure about the ins and outs of players running in and out of the line-outs, but apparently you can't make a tackle in the line-outs. That's what they've gone for there. Boffelli getting that kick over as well, bringing it to 15-12 at half-time. So at half-time, a couple of notes I had down here. So both teams wanted to play with this really high intensity. They were playing super, super aggressive, but the stop-start was slowing down that flow of the game a little bit, which is a shame. I would have liked to have seen how this game would have panned out if there was a few less penalties, a few less knock-ons and stuff. The New Zealand set-piece looking extremely good in this first half, looking like they were just doing really well. They had a really dominant scrum. They were winning penalties at the majority of the scrums. The maul was incredibly strong. That's how they got their try. And they were looking really disruptive in that line-out. I didn't actually realise before going into this game that Argentina were the highest rated percentage for line-out going into this game. They were like 93%. Will have been damaged a little bit from this game because New Zealand were really getting their hands in on the ball quite a few times in this game. I said that Argentina are playing extremely smart, just taking those 3 points every time they come out. That's the way to do it. More than likely, New Zealand will be scoring points against you, throughout any game, really. So just keeping those threes ticking over, keeping you in the game is one of the best ways just to hold on against a team like New Zealand. And a lot of teams in World Rugby would be incredibly happy to be going in 3 points down at halftime against New Zealand as opposed to some other scores we've seen in the past. One of the big areas letting New Zealand down, this discipline, the only reason they're getting these penalties is because New Zealand are just giving away so many penalties. It's something we've seen a little bit in the first game against South Africa, and we've seen in other games against like Ireland and stuff as well. They just need to work on that discipline. There's so many penalties coming from. Most of them feel a little bit needless as well. So that's something they really just wanted to try and get sorted out. In terms of possession, though, 64% possession for New Zealand in this first half. That's a huge amount of possession to only be leading it by 3 points at halftime, which just goes to show the damage that those penalties were doing. Number of penalties was 8-5 against New Zealand. Just already there. They talk about international rugby, you want to see 10 by the full-time whistle. They're at 8 at half-time. That's never good to see. Number of turnovers, 1 to New Zealand, 3 to Argentina. I wouldn't be surprised if all 3 of them came from Montoya in this game so far. And then line out 6 of 6 for New Zealand and 5 of 7 for Argentina at that half-time marker. So as you see, the set piece working very, very well for New Zealand at this point. On to the second half then, and this poor discipline unfortunately just continued immediately. Sam Whitelock giving away a penalty for not rolling away literally within the first 40 seconds of the second half. I'm sure the coach will have been absolutely outraged to have seen that. New Zealand were the first ones to get points on the board in the second half, coming from Mwanga in the 46th minute for a penalty that was a tackle off the ball. Brought New Zealand to 18-12. They had the opportunity for a bit more. Geordie Barrett did also have a ridiculous 58-metre kick for a penalty. Didn't get that one over, unfortunately, but, would have been quite impressive if he had got that one. However, the bounce back immediately from Argentina, getting their own try. Gonzalez getting in there straight from the kickoff from the Mwanga penalty. Knocked back by Boffelli. The ball bounces around, managed to get catch by Gonzalez. Just breaks his way through 3 tackles, runs a good 20 metres up the field. Aaron Smith just left hanging off his leg. Over he goes for a try. Fantastic recovery. And Boffelli kicks that as well. So Argentina go back into the lead. Since right at the start of the game, 19 points to 18. Huge comeback for them. And from there, the final half hour is just point scoring for Argentina at this point. They got into the lead and then just didn't let it slip. I mean, that's quite impressive, actually, just to look back at this now. In the 47th minute, they took the lead and they win this game without conceding any points for the next half hour from New Zealand. We saw a penalty coming in from another Montoya Jackal penalty that came in. Boffelli kicked that one in the 55th minute. Boffelli kicked another one in the 66th minute. This one was Sam Cane tackling Pablo Matera off the ball. And that just takes them all the way to that 25-18 lead. The final score that actually came in was in the 66th minute. And the last 14 minutes was just defensive everything from Argentina. It was so nice to see. There was a bit of a momentum switch, which began to feel they still weren't winning the set piece. The set piece was one of the big areas in this game. New Zealand really had a hold of the scrums and the lineouts, and even in the sort of 50th, 60th minute, we were still seeing that New Zealand scrum running over the Argentinian scrum. So all Argentina had left is just hold on through sheer determination in their defence, and it was absolutely outstanding. I was incredibly impressed in this game with their defence. I've got some stats down. You know, by the 70th minute, they were on a 95% tackle success rate. They made 130 tackles and got 95% of them. Absolute huge effort. People like Kramer, Pablo Matera, some of the locks that were getting in there, just everyone absolutely committed to the defence. And we've sort of seen this before from Argentina, where they've had games like this where they sort of managed to get into the lead, and you see that belief begin to build up in them, where you just see that bit of a shining moment in their eyes goes, yes, we can win this game. We saw it against them when they beat New Zealand a couple of years ago. I've seen it in other games since. They just gain this boost of, we really believe we can do this. They had it against Australia last week. And they had it again this one. They just got into that lead and just did not let it go. Final actions that sort of went on. There was a yellow card in the 70th minute once again. Frizzell going in at the side of the maul. This was more of a team penalty more than directly him, but he was absolutely illegal to do it. So I think yellow card probably correct in terms of how many penalties were going their way. New Zealand discipline not very good at all. At this point, they did have the penalty from that, and they chose to go for the corner. I thought this was a massive call. There were 7 points in the lead. A converted try draws this level. Could have gone for the 3. Buffelli's kicking's been brilliant all day. They chose not to do that, and the maul from the line out next did not go well at all for them. So they had to really hold on. The final 5 minutes was just New Zealand attack. Defence absolutely brilliant, managing to hold out really well. It gets right to that end, and if you're a New Zealand supporter, this must have been really tough just to watch these final couple of minutes. We see New Zealand have a line out on the Argentinian 5-metre line, which gets stolen by Argentina. Maybe the first steal of the game from Argentina in the absolute depth of the game. They manage to get the ball wide. New Zealand go back on the attack again. They get another penalty for Argentina being offside. They kick to the corner again, and that line out gets done for not being straight. They had the final scrum. Argentina had the put in, just got that ball out and got that ball off the field, and that was absolutely the way to go. So the final score, New Zealand 18, Argentina 25, and really well done. Some notes here. I said amazing win for Argentina. Historic victory, apparently. Something I don't know, so I'm getting to learn a bit more through this championship. Apparently they've never beaten New Zealand at home. So that's a first for them. So really nice to see for them. Argentina, brilliant defence, winning all the right areas when needed. The final tackle stat for them in the defence was 166 tackles, and they only missed 9. That is just unbelievable. To put that into perspective, New Zealand also missed 9 from nearly half the amount of tackles. So just to show the defensive rate from these players was absolutely amazing. And the boots of Buffelli managing to really just seal out this game for them. I didn't really catch a man of the match. They don't really announce the man of the match on the Sky coverage in the UK, which is a bit of a shame. For me, I would either have said Kramer or Montoya. I think Julian Montoya had a fantastic game, just stealing those balls, stopping the New Zealand attack from really getting going, stopping the phase play, and I think it led to overall a really good victory for Argentina. So really looking forward to when we get round on Monday to going over the world ranking shifts, because there's some big results in here that's going to see some teams shift around. New Zealand, of course, a couple of weeks back, New Zealand did drop down to that 5th spot, their lowest spot ever. The win they had against South Africa brought them back up, but now this loss against Argentina, and where Argentina are rated in the world rankings, we'll probably see them drop quite considerably down in the number of points. So really looking forward to see how that gets on. So make sure you guys are subscribed to keep up to date with when that video comes out on Monday. Like I said, there will be one of these for the Wallabies versus Springboks game as well. So make sure you keep an eye out for that one. If you've enjoyed this one today, make sure to leave it a like and make sure to drop your thoughts on the game down in the comments, because I always enjoy having a bit of a read through them. I'm going to go try and have a look at my fantasy league as well and see how terribly I've done, because I basically just called every single game wrong this weekend. But I hope you all enjoyed this one today, guys. I will see you all next time. Bye bye.